that I should be doing anyway. Something we all should be doing anyway. So let me move that out of the way. We advise presidents, so what? We write books, so what? The only thing that matters today is the power of an idea that has been operationalized. And one thing I like that James said, and I don't know whether James's idea, which is bold, is going to work, to be blunt with you. No different than I'm not sure when my work's going to work in 20 years from now. But I do know that he is the heart of what makes this world work at all. It is the power of an idea. And what he should know and what you should know is that Dr. King gave the I Have a Dream speech 100 times before the March on Washington. Most times kids were going to sleep as he was talking. People walked out while he was giving his speech, and I'm sure the 55th time he said, "What is this worth?" I'm sure he was in halls like this, and people were looking at well, they didn't have BlackBerries back then, but looking at their notes, and what is this guy talking about, and why is this important? And if you are excited about I Have a Dream, then go read Letter from a Birmingham Jail, because that was 100 theologians, his academic peer, telling him to get out of town, leave Birmingham. You're a rubble rouser, you're a pest. You're irrelevant, you're not important, and you're wrong. And his response to them was brilliant and dignified. He disagreed without being disagreeable. My pastor would say, talk without being offensive, John. Listen without being defensive, John. And leave even your adversary with their dignity. Because if you don't, they'll spend the rest of their life trying to make you miserable. Dr. King knew what he was about. He knew that what the Bible says, where there is no vision, the people perish. And so he stayed focused on his vision. And what would have happened if he had given up the 99th time? Here's what I know. There would be no President Barack Obama today. That's what I know. His persistence and his vision was everything. So James is part of a wonderful tradition in the world that we hope to infuse in you. It's the tradition of reimagining everything and challenging things that we think we know to be true. And being bold about your dreams. And why am I talking to you with so much passion? Because that's all there is. Love is work, non-love is laziness, and anti-love is evil. Evil exists, but it's very rare. Most people are just lazy. Financially lazy, spiritually lazy, emotionally lazy, intellectually lazy. They just don't want to do the work. Love is work. When you have children, they will drive you crazy and you'll want to throttle them every Tuesday. When you get married, you'll want a divorce every fourth Friday. You want to chuck your studies every Tuesday morning at 8 o'clock. Not when you're talking to your parents about funding tuition. But other than that, let's be honest, love is work. Nothing good comes easy. I've redefined a few things in my own life. We talk about wanting to eradicate poverty. I think we're looking for love in all the wrong places and looking for poverty in all the wrong places too. Here's my definition of poverty. Poverty, there's a difference between being broke and being poor. Being broke is economic, but being poor is a disabling frame of mind and a depressed condition of your spirit, and we must vow never to be poor again. Am I messing up your camera angles by walking this way? Am I? I'm going to do it anyway, am I? Okay. We've got to redefine success. Success is going from failure to failure without... Success is going from failure to failure without loss of enthusiasm. Success is going from failure to failure without loss of enthusiasm. Here's a fact. You cannot have a rainbow without a storm first. It's a scientific fact. that you cannot have a rainbow without a storm first. Life is about managing pain, folks. It's about successfully managing pain, the pain you create for yourself and the pain visited upon you by others. Every day you're guaranteed to have pain show up on your front doorstep. The only choice you have, listen to me now, this is the only thing that matters. The only choice that you have is what you do about it. Life is 10% what life does to you and 90% how you choose to respond to it. The only question is what's your response going to be? I love what James said in his presentation, but I disagree with one of his premises. And by the way, as friends, we can disagree. All love is not patting people on the back and saying, oh, ain't that sweet. Love sometimes is no. Love sometimes is this one. I disagree with them about Occupy Wall Street. And I don't care whether you like it or not. Occupy Wall Street is brilliant. Brilliant, except that it's wrong. And it's wrong for one simple reason. Were they wrong that free enterprise and capitalism was broken? No, of course not. Were they wrong that there were people who were greedy? Ambassador Andrew Young, Dr. King's aide in the civil rights movement, said that men and women fell for 3 reasons. The ladies look at me like, what kind of presentation is this? Ambassador Andrew Young says men and women fell for 3 reasons: arrogance, pride, and greed. Arrogance, pride, and greed. The problem is not the greed. Oh, we know all that stuff's wrong. The problem with Occupy Wall Street is that they became experts in what they are against. In a world where you've got to figure out what you're for. No one ever succeeds long term based on what you're against. So they rallied all around the world and got all this enthusiasm up, and the media was sitting there with their pen out, waiting to write something. Give me something to write. Give me a vision. What does the Bible say? Where there is no vision, the people perish. Dr. King didn't go up to the March on Washington and says, I have a dream that GDP will grow by 2%. He had a bold and audacious dream about what we were for. Thank you, I got it. And you got to really get underneath Dr. King's philosophy to understand that he was an optimist. He was a serial optimist. And here's what he said. I think sin is separation. Sin is separation. Here's what he said. The civil rights movement was about saving black men's bodies and white men's souls. He said this, and in 1960 that was a radical statement. But what he was saying, even by those who rejected him, was you may reject me, but I don't reject you. I can't reject you because we're all in this thing together. Whatever goes around comes around. The universe has a perfect accounting system. And so Dr. King knew he had to enroll people in his vision. He knew he had to have everybody wrapped up in his enlightened self-interest. And by the way, in the short term, he was dismissed and dissed. We say all nice things about Dr. King now, but back then he was called Martin Luther King, Martin Luther Coon, Uncle Tom, sellout, and wannabe. And these were his friends talking. He came to Norway and won the Nobel Peace Prize. And he took the $100,000 gift, it's now $1 million. He took the $100,000 gift, cut it into 10 pieces, $10,000 each, sent it to 10 civil rights organizations who had done good work, and never got a thank you note. Not one of them said thank you because they resented him. They were in competition with him. They didn't like him. Dr. King was asked, and when he was working in the South, do you like the people you're dealing with? And Dr. King said, if I chose to like them, I would have had to reject them. I chose to love them instead. Ooh, that's beautiful. Love is work. You've got to step out of your comfort zones. Get out of your own way. You've got to step over mess, not in it. You've got to have a vision that's big enough for everybody in it or you lose. years ago, ladies and gentlemen. I'm talking about history being made right now. We are living in a moment in history right now. And you are the history makers. James is right. The world's all screwed up. But you cannot get a degree in all screwed up. You cannot make a living. Well, actually, you can make a living in being all screwed up. You can make a living, unfortunately, in telling everybody else they're all screwed up. But you cannot change the world by specializing in all screwed up. Are you with me? Yeah. On my way here, we were driving down the street. I think truth is universal. It has to be something that you can see everywhere with a reimagined scope. On the way here, we passed by, we're in a small van, and we passed by a big bus that you know occupies the public highways here. And we got too far into the bus's lane. It wasn't an unhealthy level, but maybe a few inches. And the bus, because it's a big bus and he is part of the establishment, he blew his horn. Let him know, I'm the bus. These are my highways. Now, we can see the bus. Stevie Wonder can see the bus. Stevie Wonder's my friend, I can say it. We can see the bus, but he was saying, I'm the power here. I'm the big bus. I've got the horsepower. I've got the size. He wanted us to know he was large and in charge. But it wasn't enough for that. He wanted to rub our noses in it. So after he blew the horn and we put the other driver, he steps aside. He comes by and he leans around and he gives us like the bird. He flips us off. Like, what's wrong with you? We're driving just like you, Holmes. And we're going someplace just like you, just a different way. But we were respectful to him. We waved, hey man, how you doing? We killed him with kindness, and then we made a left. And he kept on going. What's my message? Just because you're smaller, just because you're newer, just because you're more nimble, just because you have a different view doesn't mean you're wrong. And sometimes you have to take a different lane and a different route to a different destination. Are you with me? We have got to come up with a new vision for ourselves. Occupy Wall Street is amazing and will have its place in history, but it will not last. You heard it from me. Because it does not have a vision for where it goes from here. The media was desperately looking, give me a plan. Please, give me something I can write. I need for you today to give us something we can write. And then I need you to get up and do something about it. Dr. King gave his I Have a Dream speech. It's great. But Dr. Dorothy Height, what people don't know, there's a lady named Dr. Dorothy Height, 96 years young, when I had dinner with her the last time. And she was a little young lady when Dr. King was speaking. And back in those days, what you may not know is that I Have a Dream speech was not about Dr. King. It was about the Pullman Porters Union and a guy named A. Philip Randolph. And for 20 years, he'd been threatening the president to do a march in Washington, D.C. And every time he threatened, the president said, no, don't march, come meet with me. And because of A. Philip Randolph, the military was desegregated after World War II. 20 years later, he threatened to march again. President Kennedy said, I don't care, march. So they marched, and they had 2 hours of speeches, and they got to the end, and Dr. King was giving the speech. Speaking, they said the people who sort of were jealous of him, Dr. King, the young people, everybody's tired, we'll catch you next time. True story. We'll catch you next time. Please, will you understand that, people are tired, sort of like you now, when the media off the stage. And Dr. King was gracious, said, sure. Dorothy Height said, no, the young people listen to Dr. King. Just give him 8 minutes. What can he possibly do in 8 minutes? Nobody remembers anything else. He changed everything on that day. And it was a lady named Dr. Dorothy Height, who now owns a building on Pennsylvania Avenue, right down the street from the White House, the National Council for Negro Women, the only minority organization to own a building on Pennsylvania Avenue, down the street from the White House, the most powerful dress, arguably, in the world. But she didn't have the big placard that Dr. King had. She wasn't the person that we all remember, but she was a cog in the wheel of change. Can you be a cog in the wheel of change? It's amazing what you can do when you're not concerned with the credit. We don't have an economic crisis, ladies and gentlemen. We have a crisis of virtues and values. Everything is on the table. This is not a recession, it's a reset. And everything that happens in the next 10 years, and I would argue definitely the next 20 years, will change everything about your children's lives, about their grandchildren's lives, about their grand. It's a 100-year reset for everything. What are you going to do about it? Now, I have proven, you tell I got a lot of energy, but with all of my energy, traveling 500,000 air miles a year, 20 years of doing the work I just told you, I've only made a little bit of a mark, which means, as Dr. King knew, you cannot do this alone. So Dr. King had 60 employees. This is amazing now. 60 employees for SCLC, a $600,000 annual operating budget, which is about what it costs to run this building, by the way. Well, the cost of running this building is what the entire Dr. King movement was financed with. And he changed the world. He did it without firing a shot. But he believed and he dedicated his life to that belief. But he also worked with people and advanced people's agenda even when they didn't like him, and even when they didn't agree with him, and even when they wanted to disrespect him. But he did the right thing because it was the right thing to do. Will you do that too? Look, you cannot have a movement. Why am I coming all around the world for this? I told Crown Prince Haakon I was coming, and he said, you tell him I'm with him. I think he's the people's prince, by the way. That's one cool dude. That's my brother from another mother. You mess with him, you want to mess with me first. Well, his Secret Service, then me. But we understand that only young people change the world. That's really my only message to you. I came here to try to rattle your cages, to get you out of your comfort zones. It's so easy to sit there and judge whoever's on this stage and say, are you entertaining me? I'm not here to entertain you. By the way, it's a free speech. I've invested. You're not paying me. I know what it feels like to be paid. I get paid well. I'm here really investing in you. I don't have anything to prove to you. You've got something to prove to me. You've got to prove in the next 20 years that this investment of time was well worth it. So my message here is simple. I risk you not liking me by pushing your buttons. I risk you not respecting my message and turning around and letting me see the back of your shoulders because maybe I've offended some sensibility. And if I've offended that, please blame it on my head, not my heart. I've risked saying things that push envelopes and cut emotions. I've risked saying things and inferring things that might go against your fundamental belief. But what you cannot say is, I don't care about you. You cannot say I don't love this planet. You cannot say I didn't give you everything I have. I love you and I don't even know you. And so you say, what can you do in 15 minutes? I can't break down the business plan for Operation Hope. I can't get you into the heads of Global Dignity and what we do there. I can't get you in the head of the counsel I gave to President Barack Obama and give him my top security clearance. I couldn't tell you what that is anyway. I can't tell you what I told President Bush, which he didn't listen to. I can't tell you. I can't tell you what I told the first black president, President Bill Clinton. I can't tell you what's in my book or the book that I'm writing next. I can't do any of that in 15 minutes. So you say, what can you do in 15 minutes? I can give you every damn thing I've got. you die empty. Give life, both feet, both hands, every ounce of breath you've got. Because this is it, folks. Here's my question. Don't you want to live a legacy? Don't you want the world to know you were here? I'm talking to you. Don't you want, at the end of your day, to do more than pay bills, pay tuition, to buy a nice car, to live in a nice house? Because nobody's going to care about that. Don't you want to leave this earth and know that for the end of your children's time, the world will know you were here, that you made a difference? If that's the question and that's your answer, then you got to live with something larger and more important than yourself. In Norway, they have military service for a year, I believe. Even the Crown Prince went through it. I wonder whether if we turn military service with a gun to public service with your heart, and every young person had to have a mandatory 1 or 2 years of public service and community service, running a nonprofit, doing something for somebody other than themselves. You know, we might have to stop worrying about our little lousy problems if we start focusing on somebody else's very real problems. We don't have problems, we have inconveniences. Whatever we're going through are high-class problems. If you're here right now, you got high-class problems. We are blessed. So there's 116 nations here. There's no excuse. You can't say you don't understand. You can't say you don't represent. You can't say it's not possible. And certainly given your age, you can't say there's not enough time to make a change. So my challenge to you is real simple. What kind of bird do you want to be? There are 3 types of birds, like 3 types of people. There are eagles, there are buzzards, and there are turkeys. Now, I didn't look at you for any reason when I said the last time. Eagles don't fly in packs. You've never seen a flock of eagles. You know what I mean. It's a very important point. If you can't stand in front of an audience or your parents or whoever it is and say exactly what you believe and mean it, go sit down. See, I've lived my truth. I was homeless for 6 months of my life. I lost everything. I've been successful, I've been a failure, I've been almost bankrupt. I've been up and I've been down. I know what failure looks like, I know what it feels like, and I still know I'm God's child, and I can change the world, and I'm going to go around you, over you, through you, but nobody's going to stop me when I want to get to where I'm going. So you can interrupt me if you want to, you can have a commentary, it don't change a thing. Because if you stand in between me and my mission, I'm coming right at you. Back to my message. An eagle raises its children differently. An eagle's nest is made of sharp little twigs. Message. If you get big enough and you push up against the inside of that nest, you can get up and go get a job. Can I be 48 years old and living with your mom? And then buzzards are different birds. Buzzards are low altitude birds. Buzzards love packs. Buzzards are always stepping on your head to elevate themselves. Buzzards are always player hating, never player congratulating. Always got something negative to say about somebody. Well, why is he up there? When is he going to get on the stage? Why did they invite him? Do you know it takes like 7 or 8 muscles to smile and like 34 plus muscles to frown? So when you go to school tomorrow or class or work at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, somebody's dead asleep on their desk, now you know it is exhausting being a negative person. The worst kind of bird. Actually, I don't mind buzzards. At least they tell you who they are. The worst kind of bird is a turkey. Because a turkey's got wings and can't even fly. All they do is profile. Translation, trying to be something you are not. Well, that was really weak. I'm going to ask you a question in a minute. Do I have 1 minute? Yeah. I'm sorry, I got low self-esteem. I didn't know you were with me. Do I have 1 minute? Yeah. Here's my message, my outgoing message to you. Here's to the crazy ones. This is my mission, your business plan going forward. Here's for the crazy ones, the misfits, the rebels, the troublemakers, the round pegs in the square holes, the ones who see things differently. They're not fond of rules. They have no respect for the status quo. You can praise them, disagree with them, quote them, disbelieve them, glorify them, or vilify them. About the only thing you cannot do is to ignore them, because they push the human race forward. Maybe they have to be crazy. How else can you stare at an empty canvas and see a work of art? Or sit in silence and hear a song that's never been written? Or gaze at a red planet and see a laboratory on wheels? What some people see as crazy, others see as genius. Because the people who are crazy enough to believe they can change the world are the ones who usually do. I love each and every one of you. I hope you leave here transformed. I hope you have the courage to be courageous. I hope that you find your path and you don't let anybody get you off of it. I hope when you figure out what you're for, what you're passionate about, you stand up in a hall all by yourself and scream from the top of your lungs so that even God, him or herself, can hear it. So I'm asking you a one parting question. What kind of bird do you want to be? Okay, say it like you believe it. What kind of bird do you want to be?